Hey everyone, I'm back with another edition of Velocity MPC, and today's focus is using MIDI tracks. I know, everyone is talking about the recent update, and I've spent a bit of time watching those videos, and I wanted to explain something that apparently has gone unnoticed in every announcement or reaction video, and even Akai's own social media announcements. Clearly, it's a large update, and the focus for many users is the addition of new plugins, effects, and USB audio integration. I went ahead, though, and dug a little further into the actual release notes, which is pretty useful to fully grasping all of the changes that took place. It's as though no one has actually read this, or maybe it wasn't available to the early adopters of this update, but I guess I won't fault them all too much because it's such a huge update overall. I can get that this particular feature is overlooked, but I digress. And the simple feature that this video will cover is how the MIDI tracks, or rather the MIDI programs therein, have changed. So let's get into the details as it's time to explore. We now have the ability to customize MIDI programs to where they can be truly useful, and we can save these programs for use in future projects. What do I mean by this? Well, in short, we can now address the labels for the CC numbers, and this is also reflected in the QLink editing to make them our own for the context of the device we are controlling. For example, a CC number 74 might be a type of filter cutoff for one synth, but it may control something else on another. And prior to this update, we had a list of the common MIDI standard labels, and then the rest of the CC numbers as set by Akai for every MIDI program. And this will still be the default for any newly created MIDI program, but we couldn't change those labels or parameter numbers to reflect what the control was for any given device until now. And it gets even better, which I'll explain further on. So I can take my list of CC parameters from the MIDI specs of a particular synth, and I'll go to the program editing for my created MIDI program to begin customizing the labels. I'll go ahead and demonstrate this up for my little Tetra polysynth here. I've got my empty project and the USB cable set up, and the audio is routed to the inputs. So now I go to the track and select the MIDI DIN icon. And here in the track field is where I'm going to set the MIDI channel for the device to control, which was once previously in the program field, but this was changed as part of the 2.8 update, if I remember correctly. Anyhow, in my instance on the Tetra, I'm looking for channel 4. Brilliant. Now let's go to the MIDI port settings within the program field, and we scroll to the device that is hopefully automatically discovered under USB. If you are using the MIDI DIN port, then you select the MPC as the port, and if the device hasn't shown up under the USB, then you may need to go to the menu screen, hit that cog wheel for settings, and then under MIDI sync we can find all of the devices hooked up under USB and select the necessary boxes that are relevant for you and the control that you're looking to do, as well as checking this enable MIDI ports when discovered. So once we have all of this communication set up, it's a breeze to go to the main menu page and select the proper MIDI port settings that you need. All well and good here, as I can instantly test out the connection by playing the pads and observing the voices being played, as well as going to the program change section and scrolling through my presets remotely. Okay? But of course, to hear anything through the MPC inputs, we need to turn on monitoring at the sample or looper page. So we can do that there. And you may need to remember to jump to a higher bank for a typical octave range. or turn on the pad perform here to automatically adjust the note range settings as well. Okay, so let's get to the new and cool stuff, as we're all set up on the MIDI communication side and we want to make some use of the MIDI program all customized for future projects. I simply jump to the program edit page, and this is the area that we would have to tab over to the CC number that we want and then adjust the parameter. Only now we have this edit button, so hit that and revel in the fact that we can see a pencil icon next to each CC parameter and also a drop down arrow. Now this is where I want to discuss the extra bit that I neglected to tell earlier, as we can also quickly rearrange the full layout of the CC order. And the real advantage should be obvious, as you get to put your favorite parameters right up front and ready to tweak for automation via the QLink knobs. Essentially, programs are now better customizable MIDI controller templates. Okay, so we have a bit of setup to do to take full advantage of this. Let's see how we can ramp up our editing to create the program template. I can certainly go across the tabs and find the CC number to edit, give it a name, and continue doing that for all the parameters available for my device. But I can think of a few things to help expedite the process. Let's start by printing or writing out a list of the CC parameters that we can edit. You'll find that there are indeed common ones that are MIDI standard, such as modulation on 1 and volume on 7 and etc. So you can cross them off the list as you find them or whatever. The next part is to potentially get yourself a USB keyboard and connect it to the MPC. So if you're already using the USB MIDI, then it's a matter of having a good powered USB hub here, which I have indeed right there. So I'll just plug that in. I've done this in other areas of sample or general project management, and it really is useful to not rely on the touch user interface for text input at times. Now let's just click up here in the editing view we entered earlier on any of these parameters. So we can go there. And we will use the dial to scroll across all of the parameters. It's just faster than looking across the tabs for a parameter. So let's go to the top of our list. And then we'll just work our way down one at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So what I'll do is I'll find the first one, CC20, and then I hit that pencil icon, go ahead and type in and hit enter, and you're done. So now I can just scroll to the next one, pencil icon again, type it in, and hit enter, and you're good. Scroll and continue on. Now everything is edited for the labels across all the relevant parameters. And so we have this decision to make whether we save this as a standard layout where the parameters are all listed in order as a starting template, or to go ahead and arrange these parameters in a fashion that probably makes more sense as a starting template. Potentially the one that will be the go-to setup every time and never really need to be altered. To me, this actually makes a little more sense, because then you can build up a bit of muscle memory to that synth template and have the controls laid out in the order that you prefer. So when you're ready and all the legwork is finally done, just exit back to the main menu here, and then save this program with the name that you desire. So we'll just go ahead and type in the name we like, hit that, and then save the current program. Now, it should be pretty obvious that the next part is to perhaps go into the QLink edit for our program of a given project. And this is about as expected, yet I did find a bug when I tested all of this prior to making this video. And so there's potentially going to be some label discrepancy. And let me show you what I mean. So here on program in QLink edit, and you will see essentially the updated labels that you entered over here. So if I were to scroll along, I will see certain things pop up over here that I've edited that won't necessarily reflect the same over on the right hand side here. So for example, let me just go to say, well, let's go up to some of the higher numbers here. So we got the NRPN 101, 102. So you see that it says CC 102 here, but it says the filter frequency here, right? So a little bit of a bug, right? And I found that in order for this to properly update, all we got to do is just go back to our grid view. For some reason, going into grid view and then going back into the QLink edit updates everything. So there you go. Simple little bug, easy little fix. And that's all it is. And likewise, if we go to the grid view and you select parameter track here in velocity, you expand that up, tap the velocity, open it, add a new track, right? Midi CC, and you will see all of your edited parameters will now show up. So if I go up here to 102, filter frequency. Pretty simple. And likewise, the same under the step edit view. So I just hit that, new track, Midi CC, and all of our new labels are showing up. Anyhow, the Midi programs are way better than before. If your workflow is more inclined to just go to program edit and, you know, adjust the knobs there in your particular layout, then by all means, set up the layout you like and explore your new creative freedom. So that's all I have for this session. I hope this has shed some light for you and gets you motivated to take advantage of the MPC series of tools to be in full control of your project. Let me know if any of this was useful, and feel free to provide any feedback. And as always, keep exploring and take care.